We'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast for the origins of ActionVision. And I can't believe I feel so bad. Like last week when I did the podcast, I left out like one of the most important things of ActionVision. So
What was
I
that?
definitely want to pick it up this week. So I'm 19 years old, engaged to be married. Um, and my mom said to me, she said, Mark, I'm a little concerned about you. I'm like, okay, mom. She didn't just say that once. I was pretty used to that. She and my grandmother, they were pretty concerned. Anyways, so
Yeah, I wonder why.
I don't know why. And so she said to me, and this is not stirring the pot, it's definitely not stirring the pot. I wasn't a pot stirrer when I was 19 years old. So my mom said to me, she says, "Yeah, I'm a little concerned about you, Mark. That you're going to be a workaholic, with your wife and kids, because you come from a very strong work ethic family. Like my parents never played; they always worked, and it's true. You ask any of my five siblings, we don't know how my mom came up with all the work she did. Like how do you keep, how do you keep six kids busy working? She always did. We didn't even have a farm. Like it was crazy. Anyways, we worked and worked and worked and worked. We just worked all the time. It was kind of backstory. Like my parents knew how to, get us to work. It's really simple. You had to work like 15-hour days at home, or you could go out and not make any money, or you could go out and earn money. Like like working, you had two choices. Like you could either work and get paid or work and not get paid. Like not hard, like not hard at all. Anyways, so so it's fascinating to me. Mel, owner of Bluegate, he and I and Alvin were talking yesterday, and he's like, "Yeah, it's funny to hear people that say, oh, you were just so successful, and anything you touch went to gold, and da 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 da." He's like, they have no idea. They have no idea of the work and the 15-hour days for years. For me, it was decades. Like it's fascinating to me on how people think, yeah, you just were given it. It's like, no, not just no. Um, anyways, my mom said to me, so I'm concerned that you're going to be a workaholic. You're not going to spend time with your wife and children. I'm like, okay. Like I'm 19-year-olds. Think about a 19-year-old kid. So she's saying this to a 19-year-old kid. I haven't found very many of those 19-year-olds out there, honestly. Like, you're a workaholic, especially in northern Indiana. It's like, my gracious. I mean, I'm not saying anything negative. I'm just saying that there's a lot of play going on. Anyways, so she said, I'm concerned about that. And I said, okay, mom. She said, just remember one thing. I've never seen anybody on their deathbed that said they wish, they spent more time working. I'm like, and again, remember, not stirring the pot at 19. I said, that's interesting, mom. I have a question for you. And she's like, mm-hmm. Just like that. Mm-hmm. I said, so mom, have you ever seen anybody on their deathbed that said they spent enough time with their family? And she's like, well, no. And and I said, so what you're telling me, mom, if I'm understanding you, is no matter how much time I spend with my family, it's never enough. She rolled her eye and she's like, that's not really what I was trying to teach you. So it's a legitimate question, though. And so, I ask a lot of people, what if they like something about me, what do they like? Like, what do they like? And it's interesting because Nora went ahead and she said, I like how intentional you are. And when she said that, she didn't know about this story at 19 years old, where my mom said what she said. And I said, well, that's kind of stupid. No matter how much time you spend with your wife and kids, it's never enough. No matter, I was raised Baptist and very conservative, go to church 3 times a week. Um, and you can never spend enough time at church, and you can never spend enough time reading the Bible. You can never spend enough time, praying. Like you're in a continued state of not being happy because you're not doing enough. So at the age of 19, I went ahead and said, I'm going to live a life of intention. And so, so we got married and we had goals. We planned out everything. We had planned out 7 kids. This is when we were going to have them, planned out going to college. This is what it is. Had all of this. What's interesting is my 15-year-old son went and said to me, my he's 24 now. When he was 15, he says, I don't know, I was saying something, buddy, you need some goals in life. And he's like, goals don't work for you, Dad. I'm like, what do you mean they don't work for me? He's like, they don't work for you. I'm like, I don't understand. He says, you don't hit your goals. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he says, remember when I was 9? Okay. 6 years ago. He said, I wanted to go ahead and go over to Thailand and help girls, that were being trafficked. I'm like, okay, I remember that. He says, we never went there. I'm like, okay. Did you do anything like to achieve that goal? Well, no. What? You think it's like a magic? Like you just speak a goal and it just happens? Like you don't have to do any work, you don't have to make any sacrifice, you don't have to do anything? Is that what you think? Well, no. Well, that's not going to work. So went through, set goals and hammered out the goals, had a goal of getting through college, got through college, got 3 degrees, paid for our own waivers. Anna got her degree in education, started having kids, just boom, 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 everything. And we actually ran across those goals, I don't know, a few years back, and all the kids were mapped up pretty much according to, when we had planned it out. And so then got out of college, went into 100% straight commission position and shared that last time. And then after that, saw the golden handcuffs come out. So, you know, on track to make 460 plus $1,000, walk away from $1 million because, I'm not gonna have my life vision impacted. And so then I started Synergy Solutions. And then, year or so into that, went ahead and created ActionVision. So for the last 33, 34 plus years, that's been the economics that's funded everything. And um, so goal setting is just, it's an art and a science. Like, like we've come up with a whole bunch of models, since then. And so here is, what do you say you want in life? Like, what do you say you want in life? And so there's a want model. Nora's going through the leverage course right now. I'd recommend you go through it if you haven't been through it. I'd internalize it big time. That's actually where the internalization model came from. And so, what do you want in life? And then there's 5 levels of want. I want it with no work, no sacrifice, no risk. Hopefully, you don't have a very big want. Hopefully, it's nothing bigger than a little sucker. Ginger Ann, how much are the suckers at swim lessons? Are they 25 cents or 5 cents? Anyways, I'm going to say they're 25 cents. So, but somebody's got to pay for that, right? Like, I think Ginger Ann, she's easy on her kids. I mean, Kaylee, she's, I don't know, a year old. She should be paying for her own suckers. She should have to do some work for that. Like, otherwise, I don't know. So level 2 is I want work. If I want it, if a little work is required, like, so if you have little wants in life, then I guess you can have little, level 3 is hard, okay, work. Level 4 is, willing to do the work, make the sacrifices and take the risk. Level 5, I want it, will have it regardless of what is required, i.e. my life vision, my wife. I will give my life for that. And so, I mean, that's what I did. So when you understand, um, like how amazing you are as an individual, how you were knit together in your mother's womb, literally by your creator. Like that's pretty cool. Um, and you are designed to do something that none of the other 8+ billion people in the world were, ever designed to do, like you are amazingly special. And ActionVision helps to do that. Now, where it's been all the funding is coming from is ActionVision for businesses. There's ActionVision for moms and families and children and stuff like that. And we hope to automate that. I think Ginger Ann was one of the youngest one. She might have gone on ActionVision when she was 5 or something. And but her son Mikey, and Nora's son Lincoln, like we hope to get them on ActionVision, an icon-based system where they can, clean their room and do other types of things. So children, the younger I think you get children to understand concepts, the better. So in ActionVision, and we might bring up some old ActionVision plans, but you have the driving force, the 1-1. This is what, so Nora and I did, a level 5 assessment, and this last week it was 50 people roughly. And we did a personality assessment on it, and just got an email from the guy, one of the guys, and he had said that he heard, in that presentation on how helped with marriages, and his marriage he thinks is not fixable. And after he shared, he just poured his heart out to me on an email. And at the end he said, sorry if this isn't in your wheelhouse, meaning if this isn't what you do, and sorry if I gave too much information. I got chills all over my whole body. Like, this is what I was created to do. So obviously, as a young man, as a husband, father, you got to have money, you got to make money. So ActionVision is so much beyond making money. I mean, just so much beyond making money. But the 1-1 is your wow income goal. What do you want to earn? What do you want to, it could be sales, anything measurable. If you can measure, put it in 1-1. You can't control this, but you can control the actions. And if you do the right actions in the right way over the right period of time, you get a predictable result. And then you measure it. So because you can track it, you can measure it. And so on average, if you do, so the things when you're selling ActionVision, what's important to understand is some key statistics. And so on average, individuals will see a 35% increase within 30 to 60 days. That's work productivity increase. I mean, so it helps people get laser focused, what's important. It helps you to do right actions, right way, right period of time. Over 95% of the people who are invited into ActionVision will follow through. And the accuracy of it is what's most amazing. So on average, some are more, some are less. On average, if you do 90% of the plan, you get 94% of results. If you do 50% of the plan, you get 54% of results. You do 10%, you get 14% of results. So sometimes people will say to me, well, goals, goal setting hasn't worked in the past for me. I'm like, okay, why do you say that? And they say, well, Mark, I set a goal for 250,000 in income. I'm like, okay, what'd you reach? And they're like, 125,000. I'm like, okay, half of it. Yeah. Well, what percentage of your plan did you do? And they're like, well, I don't know. I said, well, maybe you only did 50% of your plan. You can't expect, you can't expect to do 50% of your plan and get 100% of your results. You just can't. This, again, it violates natural laws. So Tom Kuntz, so in the DNA for business, this is the 530 grid, the DNA for business. There's a DNA for people, which is personality mastery, DNA for life, which is natural laws. Tom Kuntz shares a story about, it's called the Golf Pro Principle. Amazing principle. So Tom says, he loves golf, but not very good at it, buys all the gadgets, goes through everything. And his golf game, a few years back, he hired a golf pro to teach him how to go ahead and play golf better. So they went out on the driving range and, shook hands and exchanged pleasantries and stuff. And then, the golf pro says to Tom, hey, Tom, give me a club that doesn't work. And Tom's like, what do you mean? He's like, the club that goes left or goes at right. And And Tom laughs and he says, well, that's pretty much all the clubs. He says, just give me one. So he pulls out a club, gives it to the golf pro, and, drops the ball and lines up, whacks that ball a mile down the middle of the driving range. I mean, perfectly straight, and it's long. And the golf pro looks at the club, looks at Tom, and says, Tom, good news. The clubs aren't the issue. So, I mean, so people don't follow a system well. Like they don't follow systems well. And then they blame the system or blame their parents or blame somebody else. They're always blaming somebody. And so if you don't follow the system, don't blame the system. Like it's not the club, it's not the club. So that should be like a little joke amongst all of us. It's not the clubs. It's not the clubs. So you understand what ActionVision will do. You will sell it like nobody's business. You can't even imagine. What's Nora having so much fun about? She and Anita are just a little silly today. They're a little silly. They've been having a little hypoxia rather than hypopia. So I'm not even going to ask, like, not even going to ask, not even going to ask. But we know that Nora's not going to be drinking anything today, or at least not in front of me, because if she does, she'll spit it all over the place. Anyways, getting back to this. So if you understand this will change people's lives, this can save somebody's life. This is like there's a part of me that hopes you never have to go through what Mel went through, or what Alvin went through, or what I've gone through. There's a part of me that hopes you never have to go through that, because you can't even imagine. You think you've had it rough, let me tell you. Just saying, maybe not so much. And I'm thankful for those times. And so you're going to think you have it rough, but yeah. So you understand what ActionVision will do for you and the people you're doing for. It'll be crazy. You will be unstoppable. I think I had shared in the previous, but maybe not. Like 3 months I was in selling, making $1 an hour. And after 3 months, I just got ticked. My wife was then 6 months pregnant. Man, it was rough financially. Holy cow. Go and pound on the president's desk. He tells me do 3 things. I go out there, I do those things. It's still not working. So I've been out there 4 months building the system, went out there in a week. The system helped without question. Like without question, the tool, it helped. I couldn't have done it without the tools that I created, the systems I created. I couldn't do it. But what really made the difference, I can tell you what it was. Good Baptists aren't supposed to use this word, but I think I will. Because I think it's appropriate. I just got pissed. I mean, I got really, really pissed. I was mad. Because I'm like, doggone it, everybody's telling me, everybody's saying nice things to me. They're all saying, oh, Mark, you have a cute daughter. And, Ginger Ann, she was out in the field within a week or so making sales calls. And she was great. Let me tell you, she was good. But they were saying they were going to send business, but they didn't. So I've heard this about salespeople. And that is, you just get mad. And when you get mad, something snaps inside of you. Now, if I hadn't been working my tail off for the first 4 months, if I hadn't been out there working like crazy, working long hours, not making any money, well, then you don't get mad. You get mad at somebody else. I got mad at the situation. I didn't get mad at the company because their tools and systems didn't work. I got mad at the situation, and I said, doggone it. Like, I'm going to see success. And there's something inside of an individual. They call it the fire in the belly. There's something inside that when you get ticked and you say, I am going to go ahead and be successful, that there's something that like the fire comes out. And when that fire comes out, that's when it happens. Ladies, any questions or thoughts that any of you have?
I don't think I do.
Elaine, Ginger Ann?
Not at the moment.
No.
So if you're watching and you're like this, and you're like, should I emulate Nora and Anita. I would say, oh, like they are they really paying attention? They don't look like they're paying. You want to pay attention to me because Kenny, he and I went ahead and did a 1 week trip to Texas together, and he learned a couple lessons that are really important. One of those lessons was just blame Mark for everything. Like it's all Mark's, everything's Mark's fault. It's fine because I can take credit, responsibility for everything. So not a problem. The other thing he learned is everything you say can and will be used for your benefit. Now, caveat, it won't seem like it's your benefit, but it is. But I do a lot of podcasts, do a lot of writing, and Live Vision, 8+ billion people in the world. So big platform, lot of things that I can say. And there'll be thousands of people looking at this, and sometime Lincoln's gonna be like, Mommy. And you're like, yeah, that was me, honey. And he's gonna be like, doesn't look like you, Mommy.
No, he's not.
But then her voice, and he's like, oh, it is you, Mommy. So anyways, it's fun, it's serious, it's significant. It's the more you know about ActionVision, the more you don't know. So next week we might take history. If you want to take a look at some of the, like a family ActionVision plan and a wife's ActionVision plan and kids ActionVision plan. I just ran across that the other day. And then we can take a look at the some of the analytics and some of the other pieces. And then I would come ready, I'd come ready with some questions and get some stories on the early years on how it got started and where it was and what happened and stuff. Like the more you understand the history, the more you're going to be able to sell it, service it like you can't even believe. And the more you understand the blood, sweat, and tears of it, the more you're going to understand the significance of it and what it means. And that's just good for everybody. So hopefully this session's been good for you. Always remember we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.